I learned about the grace of God by receiving His grace. Years ago, Krista and I fell into grievous sin. We were totally wrong, no justification. We were sinners. And the reaction from our church and all but one of the friends that we had was to be cast out. Our church cast us out officially. Friends just, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be around you. Don't come near me anymore. There was one man who I love to this day as my brother. Loved him before. He was a pastor of this church for the first 8 years. James Goodman. Some of you know that. He was the only one as we left everything. We lost everything. And we left town to go to a different part of the country and live. And he was the only one who showed his love to us of all of our Christian friends. Wow. But he showed me what grace was. He showed me what mercy and forgiveness was. He didn't acknowledge or justify or say, oh, your sin's okay. No. But he loved me in spite of that and showed grace in spite of that. Maybe even a little bit more love and grace because of that. When we went to Albuquerque and tried to live like pagans because we thought that's what we were now. We don't have any hope in the church. And God began to draw us back. There was a pastor, another Pastor Chuck, not Pastor Chuck Smith, Pastor Chuck Robinson from Congregation of the Messiah, not a Calvary Chapel in Albuquerque. And he showed me what grace was. And I said, well, I'll find out how much grace he has. And I had lunch with him and spent about 2.5 hours, actually it was breakfast, and told him the whole story and how God's judgment was upon us and we were cursed of God. And he listened to the whole thing, God bless him. And I said, don't you know that Jesus Christ took the penalty for all of your sin on the cross? Don't you know that? Don't you know that He is dealing with you by His mercy and His grace now, not according to judgment because you are one of His? And I realized, no, I really didn't know that at that point in time. I knew it up here, I didn't know it in here. And so now, if you've spent any time in this church, you know that the message of this pulpit and of this pastor is a message of grace. Because what I have received from the Lord, that's what I'm giving to you. I know the grace and forgiveness of Jesus Christ. And if you don't know that this morning, if you don't know that living relationship with God through Jesus Christ, then I would love to be able to sit and talk and share with you the truth of being at peace with God because of what Jesus has done on the cross and because He is risen again and lives today. After receiving His grace, I seek to show His grace and love not just to you, but also to those who have fallen into sin. That's what we're called to. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. We love God not because we love Him, not first, but because He loved us first. And those who are separated from God need to know the love of God, and they will know it first through us. We get to be the ones to show people who don't deserve it, don't want it, don't think it's real anyway. We get to show them the love of God through Jesus Christ so that they can come to know, wow, there really is a God in heaven who loves people so much that He died upon the cross for their sins. We get to be the ones. What a privilege. What an honor. What a blessing. Wow. How do we see with God's sight? We need to keep that relationship alive. Primary. When they came back to rebuild the temple after the Babylonian captivity, they did a funny thing to me an ex-engineer. Actually, there's kind of like a Marine. There's never an ex-engineer. You're always trying to figure out how to build something better. And what they did was they came to Jerusalem, and first they built the altar. And then they built the temple. And then they built the walls of the city around it. That's backwards to me. If I were planning to rebuild a city that had been destroyed and there are enemies all around, you move in there, first thing, build the wall. Keep the enemies out. Then build the temple. And then build the altar in there, in the temple, so it can be protected. They did it exactly the opposite. And I believe that's a model for us in our relationship. Wherever you are in struggling with something or dealing with something or, just trying to move on in your life, first, build the altar. First, before God, you and the Lord, one-on-one. That's it. That's the first thing to build. Then build the temple. Build the things around in your life that support that one-on-one. Build the things into your schedule. Surround yourself with the things that will encourage and keep that one-on-one relationship going. Then build a wall. Then figure out, once that relationship and all those other things are in place, then figure out, well, where should I work? Where should I, who should I marry? How many kids should I have? Should I marry at all? Should I, all of those things. Get those other things built first. Then you can build a wall. You build the wall first, it's not going to work right. So, if you see with the eyes of God, what are you going to see? Well, that takes us to our second story in 2 Kings. So pick it up at verse 8. Now the king of Syria was making war against Israel, and he consulted with his servants, saying, my camp will be in such and such a place. And the man of God, meaning Elisha, sent to the king of Israel, saying, beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are coming down there. Then the king of Israel sent someone to the place of which the man of God had told him, and thus he warned him, and he was watchful there, not just once or twice. The NIV translates that not just once or twice to time and time again. It's just kept on happening. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was greatly troubled by this thing, and he called his servants and said to them, will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? Where's the spy in our midst? Who's telling the king of Israel what we're doing? How does he know this stuff? And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha, the prophet who's in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. He knows. He knows exactly what you're talking about, even in secret. So he said, go and see where he is, that I may send and get him. And it was told him, saying, surely he's in Dothan. Therefore he sent his horses and chariots and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city. And when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, alas, my master, what shall we do? So he answered and said, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And I'd love to have the picture of the servant's face at that point. Huh? Where? And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. And then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So when the Syrians came down to him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, strike this people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. Now the story gets even more interesting at this point. I love this. Now Elisha said to them, this is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. Now let's stop right here and get the picture here. These guys have come, a whole army, to get one guy. They surround the city. His servant is, Elisha is, don't worry. There are more in the Lord for us than there are for them. Don't worry about it. Then he goes out. He prays, Lord, strike him with blindness. So all the army's blind. Then he goes out to the army and goes, hey, guys, I'll tell you where you can find the guy you're looking for. He's not here. He's in Samaria. Now, Samaria was this capital city of Israel. He's taking them straight to the heart of Israel, straight to the king of Israel. He's the guy they're looking for, and he's going to take them there. I love this. And it gets even better.